Hey, hey, hey. Here we are again. It's another Sunday. Can you believe it's February? Oh my heck. It is 2220 today. I noticed that when I wrote down the date. Kind of cool, right? That's a lot of twos. Two is a very important number in my life. There are a lot of them in my life. So I thought it was kind of interesting that two popped up a lot today and that I was going to have the opportunity to go live on Facebook and hopefully chat with some of you and be able to contribute to your daily dose of positivity. So last week we had a really nice show. It turned out pretty good. I was surprised because I struggled with it at the last minute, but I did manage to get it onto YouTube. And so for those of you that want to go back and watch that, I am generating a YouTube channel with my Facebook Live videos. It's not the greatest quality video in the world, but it's all about the words, not the pictures, right? At least I like to think so. So hopefully I'll continue to build that and be able to help folks out with the YouTube channel as well as the videos here on Facebook. In addition to that, I just wanted to let you know that a challenge that I had earlier, and I wrote it on the refrigerator with one of my magnets. Remember I talked to you about the magnet project, that I have to have all these magnets on my fridge because I've got notes to myself on there like all the time. And the magnets on the fridge had a piece of paper that said, you have to finish chapter 1 of the book. Remember, my goal is to finish all 5 chapters and get the book published, doing a chapter every month. Now we're on chapter 2, but I did finish chapter 1. And I felt really good about that. And I find it important to have accountability in my life, which is why I tell you what I'm going to do. And that way I feel like even if there's only a couple of you out there, that somebody is going to hold me accountable. And whether they do or not hold me accountable, I believe that I have to live up to the things that I say, because as a person of integrity, I try to do that. So I did finish chapter 1. I'm going to begin chapter 2 now and see if I can't get through that. And I will keep you posted on the progress there. So for tonight, I'm going to be looking up above my head here because I got my notes posted up. And I wrote a lot of detail in these notes instead of bullet points this time. And they are a little crazy. So hopefully I can make some sense tonight as I talk to you about our topic for tonight. Earlier this week, I posted a link to a video that I found on Facebook from Dr. Wayne Dwyer. And it was 5 things that will help to improve and change your life. And I don't know if many of you have seen that, but yes, you have. It's really amazing, and I'm going to be using some of those points for little chat topics for our Sunday Night Live videos. So, number 1 on his list was this little quote, and I really liked it. I've really been thinking about it a lot this week, and so I'm going to read it to you. It says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it's not just a clever way to say something. It really means something. And the deal with regard to that is that two different people can look at the same incident and end up with different ideas about what is going on. I'm going to try to turn off this phone so it doesn't beep at us like it did last week. But for some reason, it doesn't want to let me do that. And so what that comes down to is it's perception. How you believe that something is how it's going to be. So if you, it's kind of like the glass half full, but it's not even that. It's over and above that. It's all about an overall way of looking at the world. And Albert Einstein had a really great quote, and I think I wrote part of it up here. He observed that the most fundamental and major decision that you have to make in your life is, do you live in a friendly or hostile universe? And this comes back to the very same thing that Dr. Dwyer was talking about, which is perception. So if you look around you and you see all kinds of possibilities, and you see nice people, and you see people that are basically good, then that is the sort of thing that you're going to attract to your life. However, if you look around and all you see is anger and hostility and people that want to hurt each other, then that's the kind of thing that could easily be attracted to your life. And unfortunately, our brains create these ideas around our basic beliefs. And some of those basic beliefs happen as children, and they're in our subconscious. And so they're not easy to overcome. But the beliefs themselves are just that, they're just beliefs. Because two people can see the same incident and interpret it completely differently. And I have learned that developing that ability, which I had as a kid, but it was a struggle to actually bring it to the forefront and learn how to use it, and it's something I've done as an adult. And I'm really excited about the fact that that is something that I've been working on, because it's turned out to be a real coping tool for me. Because when something does happen to me, I believe that there's a reason for it, and that there's something I can draw out of that that will ultimately result in a positive outcome. Whereas I see other people that are in the same situation that believe that they cannot handle it, that they are perhaps even victims, and that this situation is going to be something that is going to negatively impact their life forever. And I don't feel like that is a healthy way to look at the world. Now, of course, the optimist has to have a reality check occasionally. In fact, there was a research done with some firemen, and it turns out that a lot of times when firemen end up getting hurt in fire-related accidents, that even though they're taught the safety protocols that are in place and how to use them, and what the statistics are with regard to positively harmful incidents, when the activity happens and the situation arises, they, as optimists, honestly believe it's not going to happen to them. And so, and that's the way optimists are. We do that. And so they end up putting themselves in situations which were unrealistically low risk of harm, which were actually high risk of harm, and sometimes they get hurt. So optimists can get themselves into a little bit of trouble if they don't practice a little bit of realism now and then. And that can also happen with finances. If you are investing in a business and you're all gung-ho about it and you're excited about how it's going to go and you have all these optimistic high goals, and after a while it's pretty obvious that it's not going in your direction, an optimist will tend to hang on to that and continue to pour money into it long after someone else who's maybe not so optimistic would have realized that this is going nowhere. So optimists need a little dose of reality now and then. But overall, being an optimist is better for you. Now, the difference between an optimist, a realist, and a pessimist can be illustrated this way. And I saw this little video not too long ago, and it was a really good illustration. And what the optimist sees is that they are going to do a project. Just pick any project. Say it's a money-making project. And so they set their goals like ridiculously high. They're going to make $5 million in 3 years, or whatever, something that's really unrealistic. Now, the optimist actually believes that's going to happen. And so they pour their little heart into it, and they work their little tails off. And they may not reach the 5 million, but they're going to get close. And they're going to make some decent money if that's what they're trying to do, or whatever goal they're trying to work on. It's going to be a high goal, and they're going to work really hard for it because they believe it's going to happen. Now, a realist will look at the same situation and say, well, realistically, I could probably do this much money. Maybe I could do $100,000. And so that's realistic for them. And they'll work pretty hard at it because it's not quite as high a goal and it's not quite the cherry they always wanted, but you know, it'll do. And so they put some effort into it and, you know, they'll get somewhere around close to what they're shooting for. Well, the pessimist doesn't believe they even have a chance, so they don't even try. And they're not even going to clear 40 grand this year. So that's kind of a realistic outline of the difference between an optimist, a realist, and a pessimist. And it's all about setting goals, believing in your ability to achieve those goals, and in working toward them. And an optimist will typically put in a lot more work and effort because they honestly believe that this goal can be really reached. Another problem is the problem revolving around taking responsibility. And that was kind of hard to talk about because when you tell people that they're not taking responsibility, they get really defensive. And so it's kind of tough to address this issue with a pessimist or even a realist, because the thing about an optimist is an optimist will see a problem or see a bad incident that happens to them and they'll take responsibility, because by taking responsibility you empower yourself to do something about the situation. And I used to talk to my dad. He's passed away now, but I used to talk to him a lot about this problem because my dad was a pessimist and he had a very deeply rooted victim mentality, and everything bad happened to Daddy. And I used to have these long talks with him about how if you take responsibility for what happens in your life, then you can do something about it. But if what happens to you comes from outside of you, then you're a victim, and you can't do anything about being a victim because you have no control. An optimist always has control because you know what? I did it, I can fix it, and it's temporary. But a pessimist never has control because it just happened to me. I can't do anything about it, and I can't fix it. And it's going to be that way forever, is the attitude of a pessimist. So it's far healthier to be an optimist because the optimist will actually look for the good, seek it out, find it, and be willing to work for it. So ultimately, as far as the length of your life and the happiness of your life, you're going to have a lot more as an optimist than you are a pessimist. This should not come as a surprise to anyone. I mean, we've been told this stuff forever and ever by all the great thinkers throughout the ages, including Dr. Dwyer and Albert Einstein. The next point that I found really interesting when I was doing some research for this little talk tonight was that positivity can be learned. And there was a study that was done with dogs. And they took these dogs and they put them in a box. Now, one of the dogs had a box they could get out of, and the other dog had a box he couldn't get out of. And then they administered a little shock to him. And the dog that got out of the box immediately and left. The dog that couldn't get out of the box tried once and then laid there and took his shocks. And he just laid there. Then the next day, they put the dogs into different boxes, and both of these boxes they could get out of. Well, they administered a shock, and before they even administered the first shock, the dog that had gotten free the day before got out of the box. But the other dog, he laid there, and even though he could get out of the box, he just laid there and took his little shocks and didn't even try to get out of the box because he had already learned the day before that he could not get out of that box. Now, the opposite can happen as well. You can learn to be positive. The thing about learning to be positive is it takes effort. You have to wanna, and you have to do it consistently, and you have to be willing to put the time and the energy into doing what it takes to achieve the optimism. And a lot of people who are not optimistic can really learn to be more optimistic by practicing. There are a lot of different ways that you can do it. And if you want to know more about those, please either text me if you have my number or send me a private message or DM or whatever. And I will do another talk on learning to be an optimist. But just really briefly, one of the quick lessons I can give you is one that I learned from Mel Robbins, who wrote the 5-second rule recently, and she has a little project that she calls Think This, Not That. And the first step is you have to identify the negative thoughts. And so you spend a little bit of time, you can set yourself any kind of a goal that you want, and 1 to 3 days is usually pretty good. And every time you have a negative thought, just identify it and call it what it is. Every time you hurt yourself, you say, well, that's just me being stupid. Or you get stuck behind a big truck in a line at the stoplight and you think, I'm always back here. Anytime you have any kind of negative thought, just identify it. And then once you get used to being able to identify those stops and to stop yourself just a little bit, then what Mel suggests you do is you think this, not that. So instead of thinking, when you hurt yourself or something, thinking, I always do this because I'm so dumb. Think, well, that was a silly accident. It won't happen again. Or if you think, I can't do this because I'm not smart enough. Think, well, I'm really smart and I have lots of great qualities and I'll be able to conquer this next time. And so by consciously changing that thought pattern from the one side to the other, over time you start to build that positive attitude. But it does take work and it does take focus. And it has to be something that you want to do. And it also has to be something that you feel like you can do. Because if you don't believe in yourself, you're never going to be able to accomplish it. Another example of optimism versus pessimism that I saw in one of the videos I was watching was a young man was talking about talking to a girl. And the result of the talk was the same. Young man walks up to the girl, says something to her, she shuts him down. Now, the optimistic young man, when this happened, thought to himself, well, you know, that was just one incident. There'll be lots of other girls, and next time, the girl I talk to will probably talk to me. The pessimist, of course, thought, this is because I'm dumb, I'm not worth talking to, all girls are going to hate me, and it's no use even trying. So you can see how the one is going to eventually get a girlfriend, and the other one is going to eventually suffer from depression, which, by the way, is a big problem for a pessimist. Optimists tend to be able to have tools in their arsenal with which they can fight depression, whereas a pessimist cannot. And one of the biggest problems that has been discovered with regard to research done on depression is that those who are depressed feel no hope. And one of the positive traits of being an optimist is you always got hope because it's always going to be better tomorrow, because that's the optimist way of thinking. And so actually training yourself to be an optimistic person is one way that you can fight depression. And a lot of social interaction and research has been done with regard to helping people to establish more positive chains of thought in order to fight depression on a more basic and holistic method instead of just drugs. And so it's been proven to work. And like I said, if you want to learn more about training to become more optimistic, let me know, and I will develop another video that revolves specifically around that in the future. But this video was just kind of an overview on optimism and on Dr. Dwyer's how we look at the world and how that changes the way the world seems to us. And so I wanted to just include a little bit of a touch on that in this talk. But in the future, like I said, if you want to know more, I can do a deeper discussion on developing optimistic thought patterns. So remember, taking responsibility is a big deal. You can think it's not that, and try not to be the dog that's in the box you can get out of, and be a minister jock. Another little story that I found along the way when I was doing some research for this talk is really cute. There's a man, and he has 2 twin sons, and they are identical on the outside, but exactly the opposite on the inside. And one is an optimist, and one is a pessimist. And so this man decides he is going to find out exactly how these boys are going to react if he gives them very different results for their birthday. And so he tries to change them by giving the pessimist a whole room full of every single toy he can imagine. And the optimist, he puts in a truckload of horseshit. Pardon my French. Okay, so here's what happens ultimately. He comes home, and the boys are each in their rooms. The boy with all the toys is bawling and crying. The pessimistic child is surrounded by every toy a child can imagine, and he is bawling his eyes out. And his father comes in and says, "Why? Why are you crying?" And the boy says, "All of my toys are going to have to have batteries, and they're all going to die eventually, and then they won't work, and all my friends are going to be jealous of me, and nobody's ever going to want to play with me with all these toys." And the father is astonished. He thought that by giving this child every single toy, that the child would maybe change his attitude a little bit. But no, he was still solidly a pessimist. So then he wonders to himself, "Oh, what's happening in the other room?" So he goes into the other room where it is full of horse poop, and the optimistic boy is digging gleefully through the horse poop, and he is just excited and giddy and beside himself and happy. And the dad walks in and he's astonished, and he says to the boy, "What is happening here?" And the boy looks up at his father and says, "Well, with all this horse poop, there's got to be a pony here somewhere." Right? Okay, I thought it was funny, even if you didn't. But moral of the story being, the optimist is always going to see the positive, and the pessimist is always going to see the negative. And it's not so much what happens around them or to them, it's their perception of the world. And so our perception of the world is incredibly important. And how you view what's going on around you and what you do with that will affect your life in amazing ways. Because being able to imagine that good things will happen to you will effectively bring good things into your life. And if you can't, because you're a stolid pessimist, then your life is not going to be as happy as maybe it could have been. And I challenge you to try to be a little more optimistic. So that's kind of the end of my talk with regard to optimism versus pessimism and the positive aspects of both and how we view the world. Next week, we'll talk about the second point in the video I spoke to you about Dr. Dwyer, and I'll incorporate some of that. I'll also be talking about embrace communities and generating positive energy through social media. I also want to point out that I'm doing this little daily challenge on TikTok. I also post it on my Instagram and share it with my Facebook branding page, which is my Jenny Castle page. And every day we do a challenge. And it's really been awesome for me because it motivates me to get up and make a video. Some days when I'm just home all day, I think to myself, "Oh, I'm just going to stay in my jammies and let my hair go." And then I remember I have to make a video, and I get up and get dressed, and then I get a lot more done. So it's really worked out to be a positive thing in my life. And it's kind of fun. And I would love it if some of you would participate and maybe do some of the challenges and let me know how it's going for you, or post comments on the various videos on, the various platforms that I put out with regard to my daily challenges. Tomorrow is Move It Monday. I'm really excited because I've done really great on my diet this week, and I'm going to weigh in and see if I can move any of my pennies from my clamshell to my penny jar. Because when the clamshell is empty, I'm down another 40 pounds. Go me. I'm excited. And so that's something that I'm doing. Also, I have just started working toward becoming a network marketing, amazing, profit generating creature of awesomeness. So, can you tell I invented that as I went along? Yeah, I did. So anyway, I am going to be posting on my brand channel my slow but sure progress to network marketing superstardom. And if you're interested in that, I'll be posting those little videos on Jenny Castle. Today, I opened my first Shopify store, and I'll be developing that throughout the month of February. I am shooting for supporting myself with my network marketing business and being my own boss. And for those of you that are thinking of ever doing something like that, you can watch my posts and see how it's going and keep in touch. And if you're optimistic with me, It'll be fun. I noticed that. Excuse me. I've noticed that I do all these crazy projects, and I tell people about them because I'm a vocal little thing, and it's really been interesting for me to watch the responses of people, because going back to the whole optimism versus pessimism thing, I get people, I'll tell them what I'm doing, like I'm writing the book, and I'll tell them, what I want to do with it. And that some people are like, wow, that's so cool. I know you can do this. You go, girl. And then some people are like, yeah, well, I hope it works out for you. And then some people are like, well, good luck with that. You know how hard it is to get published? And it's been really interesting to see the different responses from my friends and the people that I interact with regard to some of these projects. Because some people have surprised me with their reactions. And it's kind of a good little social experiment for me as well. So I'll be posting the updates on how the network marketing business is going. And eventually I'll probably make some YouTube videos with regard to that too. Although I totally want to assure you that I do not plan to become one of those people that teach you how to do this, because it's so easy. Because just between you, me, and the fence post, it has not been easy. I am on the low end of the learning curve. I have a long way to go. And I would never tell anybody that overnight in 10 minutes you can be making $5,000 a month. Because as far as I can tell, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of study and research and making mistakes and learning from them. And I don't think anybody is going to be able to do this fast and easy. So if you're looking for fast and easy, go buy a lottery ticket and take y'all's chances. Because network marketing is something you got to work at. There, I said it. In conclusion, for 2220, I'd just like to say, in case nobody else has told you, I learned this from Mel Robbins, and I think it's a great way to close the talk. I love you, and thank you for being here, and I believe in you, and you can do this. I can do this, whatever we're trying to do, and keep up the good work, and have a great week. I will see you next Sunday Night Live. Same bat time, same bat channel. Cheers.